three-part series by yours truly, Cigna On-Site Nutrition Health Coach, Shannon Parks. I'm just so glad that you guys are here with me for week 2, which is all about nutrition, my favorite thing, if you didn't know. And we are going to go ahead and dive right in. Okay, as I had said, my name is Shannon Parks. If we have not yet met, I am your on-site Cigna Nutrition Health Coach. I am a registered dietitian nutritionist. I have a clinical background coming from the Baycare healthcare system prior to joining Cigna and going live with the county a couple of months ago. Last week was part 1 of our Protect Your Heart series, Blood Pressure 101. And this week, we're going to be talking all about nutrition, which is, again, my favorite thing. So I'm really, really glad that you're here. I am going to leave ample time at the end for questions, for some feedback, some conversation. And so if you do have questions during our presentation, go ahead and pop those in the chat, and I will look back on those at the end of our time today and make sure that we get all those questions and comments addressed. So I thought this was a cute little comic to open up our session with. It's a doctor here. You can see he's kind of dressed up in a funky jacket. He's got a fish hanging out of his pocket. He's got a clown nose on, maybe even some clown shoes on there. And it says, "A lot of my patients have white coat syndrome." So I thought that was pretty funny because it's so true, right? A lot of times we get nervous when we're going to go to a doctor's office or even to come see me as a dietitian. We get nervous when we go to healthcare appointments. We're not sure what the provider is going to say, what kind of feedback, or maybe a new diagnosis that we might have, or some news that we don't really want to have. And a lot of times our blood pressure can go up as a result of just feeling nervous, anxious, worried, right, about what could happen in that session. So I thought this was kind of funny. The doctor takes the edge off by dressing up like a clown to maybe help some people's blood pressure out. So as I had said, this week in part 2, we're going to be talking about nutrition and heart health. And I thought that these statistics were really interesting. The average American consumes 3,400 milligrams of salt every day. And the 2020 to 2025 dietary guidelines for Americans recommends daily consumption of less than 2,300 milligrams of salt. So by and large, on average, Americans are way over consuming the amount of salt that is recommended in our dietary intake. So what is heart healthy nutrition? I think a lot of times different things come to mind for us as we think about heart healthy nutrition. Some people may think about, well, eating less burgers and less fried foods. Other people might think about adding in more fiber rich foods or fresh produce, right? And so there are several factors to it, but really what it boils down to is focusing on healthy food choices and limiting the unhealthy food choices such as red meat, saturated fat, salt, and sugar. And we're going to get into all of those a little bit later today. I really loved this super simple chart provided by the American Heart Association. And it just gives us a really good increase these, decrease those comparison. So the focus when we're looking on improving heart health would be to increase whole grains. So that's going to be like whole wheat bread, whole grain crackers, brown rice, whole wheat pasta, things of that nature. To increase lean proteins such as fish, skinless poultry, which is chicken and turkey, soy, right? And I would also add to the lean proteins would be beans and eggs. And then to increase your mono unsaturated fat, which comes from almonds, seeds, olive oil, canola oil, and avocado, as well as avocado oil. Increase your amount of low-fat dairy while simultaneously decreasing the amount of high-fat dairy. So instead of choosing whole milk or full-fat cheese, choosing low-fat, reduced-fat, or skim milk, low-fat yogurts, reduced-fat cottage cheese, and lighter cheese options. And then eating a variety of colors of fruits and vegetables throughout your day. I'm not sure if you all saw it, but there should be a replay up soon Last week, we did an Eating with the Rainbow cooking demonstration, which helps incorporate a lot of variety of colors when you're trying to eat with the rainbow. So if you didn't get to see that, definitely watch out for the replay because that is a great recipe for promoting heart health. Now, when we think about things we want to decrease in our diet, we want to watch out for saturated fat. So that's going to come from animal fats, baked goods, fried foods, all the yummy stuff, right? We want to watch out for salt and sodium. That can be found in a number of different products, but especially that salt shaker on the table. We want to watch out for trans fats, which are found in fast food and packaged goods. Like I mentioned before, reducing the amount of high fat dairy that we're having or full fat dairy in our diet. And then also watching how much alcohol we're consuming. And we'll get into the why behind that in just a few. So I get this question a lot, what diet is best, right? And let me be clear, this statistic is one that I say over and over again. The average American tries over 127 different diets in their lifetime. So primarily focused on which diet is best, I always tell people the diet that's best for you is the one that you can stick to for longevity of life, right? For the rest of your life, if you can follow that plan, then that's the best plan for you. So there are certain common dietary approaches when it comes to managing hypertension or high blood pressure, as well as heart health. And that's going to be the DASH diet. So that's for diets to reduce hypertension, the Mediterranean diet, and then salt restrictive diets. So the DASH diet focuses on salt restriction, as well as decrease of saturated fat and increase of whole grains and fiber. The Mediterranean diet pulls in fish, whole grains, fresh produce, olives, and olive oil. And salt restrictive diets might be those that your doctor or a dietitian at a hospital would put you on if you were in, let's say, acute heart failure or even chronic heart failure. If you had a fluid buildup because your heart wasn't pumping appropriately and we needed to have you on a salt restrictive diet, they may tell you, hey, no more than 1,000 milligrams or 1,500 milligrams, or sometimes even 2,000 milligrams of salt a day. And that would be for best protection of your heart and your blood pressure and your blood volume. So I wanted to open this up, and feel free to unmute yourself, but take a guess. Out of these three foods, which food do you think is highest in sodium? A 5 ounces of packaged pork with barbecue sauce, a 1 ounce slice of American cheese, or 1 cup of canned chicken noodle soup. So go ahead and unmute and let me know, A, B, or C. Which one do you think is highest in sodium?
C.
Okay, so Karen says C. Who else?
I second C.
Okay, we have another vote for C. Who else? Anybody else want to guess? Going once, going twice. Okay, let's reveal the answer. The answer is actually A. So A has 1,120 milligrams. So if you guys remember from the initial slide, our daily goal for sodium is no more than 2,300. This has probably about 90% of our daily intake of salt in just 5 ounces of packaged pork. Now, for those of you that said C was highest, it's not far behind. Only a whole bunch of salt there, 940 milligrams in 1 cup of soup. And who knows if we're really just eating 1 cup, right? If you eat a can of soup, that's probably more than 1 cup. And so that's going to be even more salt. And comes in last is the 1 slice of American cheese at 460 milligrams of salt, still about 20 to 25% of our overall daily goal. It was really surprising to see these numbers. Is anybody else surprised by these numbers? Feel free to unmute and let me know if you're surprised about these numbers, because they definitely shocked me. Let's continue chatting about sodium. So sodium and salt are not the same thing, even though a lot of times we interchange them in our vocabulary. So sodium is one of the body's main electrolytes, and its purpose is to help maintain the fluid and blood volume in our body. So we need salt. However, like I said, salt and sodium are not the same thing. Salt, when it's known by its chemical name, is sodium chloride. It's a crystalline compound that we add to foods. Sodium, however, is a mineral that's also one of the two chemicals found in salt. So sodium by itself is not salt. If we add a chloride molecule to a molecule of sodium to make sodium chloride, that's table salt. And if you look on this really interesting table to the right of the screen here, it's going to show you a range of sodium content for specific foods. So you can see 4 ounces of boneless, skinless chicken breast could have as little as 40 milligrams of sodium, the lowest on this chart. And it could go all the way up to a cheeseburger has 1,690 milligrams of salt. So it's super beneficial to look at a chart like this, see, are there some common foods that you're regularly eating, and are the amounts of salt in them surprising? And then that's not even to think about any salt that we might add in the cooking process, any salt that might be found in herb blends, or any salt that you might add to your plate after you're done cooking. This is just the sodium content of the food itself. So really, really interesting here and quite eye-opening. The next nutrient I wanted to talk about with heart health is omega fatty acids. So omega-3 fatty acids are a group, or omega fatty acids, I should say, are group of 3 nutrients you get your food or supplements that help build and maintain a healthy body. So you'll have omega-3, omega-6, and omega-9, but omega-3 consumption of these on a regular basis, whether through food or supplements, has a direct studied correlation with a significant reduction in systolic blood pressure. So that top number out of our 2 numbers on our blood pressure, if you're regularly getting omega-3 fatty acids in, it has been shown to reduce that top number, which is amazing. That is the pressure in our arteries as our blood pumps through them. And if you remember from last week, the bottom number is the pressure in our arteries in between heartbeats. So when we're thinking about sources of omega-3 fatty acids, there are plant-based sources as well as animal-based sources. So aiming to eat a non-fried oily fish at least 2 times a week. You can see several different options here, things like anchovies, bluefish, herring, mackerel, marlin, orange roughy, salmon, one of my favorites, sardines, sturgeon, lake trout, tuna, another one of my favorites. Getting 4 ounces of that twice a week of any of those fish can help you get the right amount of omega fatty acids in for blood pressure protection. Now, if you wanted to get it from plant-based sources, you could get it from walnuts, flaxseed oil, as well as chia seeds. So you could sprinkle those into cereal, onto oatmeal, snack on walnuts, and that would help you get some plant-based sources of omega-3s. And if you wanted specific numbers on how much omega-3s and if you're getting enough, I would encourage you to make a one-on-one session with a health coach, either myself or Nurse Brittany, to address that so that we make sure you're getting all the nutrients that you need. The next nutrient is saturated fat. We touched on these a little bit in the beginning, but saturated fat is solid at room temperature, and alongside trans fats, those are your 2 unhealthy dietary fats. Too much saturated fat can cause cholesterol buildup in your vessels. It can increase your LDL or your bad cholesterol, and it can also contribute to weight gain. So we want to aim for less than 30% of your overall dietary intake to be from fat. And saturated fat, the aim is for less than 7% of your overall intake. Now, for a 2,000 calorie diet, that's going to be roughly 16 to 22 grams of saturated fat daily. And to provide a very clear example, 1 slice of bacon, and whoever eats one, right? 1 slice of bacon has 9 grams of saturated fat. So if you went out to breakfast and you got a side of bacon and it had 2 slices of bacon on that side, you ate both of them, that's 18 grams of saturated fat and just about 100% of your daily saturated fat limit. So being super careful to be mindful of animal products, baked goods and fried foods, because that's where your saturated fat is hidden. Now, I do want to also touch on trans fats. So trans fats are typically found in fast food, packaged or processed goods. A lot of labels may claim to be trans fat free. However, I believe it's less than 1%. If the amount of trans fat in a product is less than 1%, the label can read trans fat free. And so you want to look on the back on your ingredients and look for hydrogenated oils. Hydrogenated oils are another name for trans fat, and they're gonna be in packaged goods, processed things, baked goods, etc., because they are a shelf stabilizer. Same reason why they're in fast food, shelf stabilizer. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about alcohol. Drinking alcohol can increase blood pressure, and if you drink, you want to limit your alcohol consumption to no more than 2 drinks a day for men and no more than 1 drink a day for women. And we'll get into what constitutes 1 drink, right? Because how much I pour in my wine glass might be different than how much you pour in your wine glass, so we want to get straight about that. But drinking too much alcohol can actually raise some of the fats in our blood, known as triglycerides. A high triglyceride level, when combined with a high LDL or bad cholesterol, or a high triglyceride combined with a low HDL good cholesterol, has been associated with fatty buildup in the artery walls and can increase your risk of heart attack and stroke, as well as increasing your blood pressure. Excessive drinking, which is more than 1 drink a day for women, 2 drinks for men, no more than 7 drinks in a week. Excessive drinking can lead to high blood pressure, cardiomyopathy, cardiac arrhythmia, alcohol poisoning, and interference with the brain's communication pathways, affecting the way that the brain works. So binge drinking, having 5 or more drinks in 2 hours for men, or 4 or more drinks in 2 hours for women, may put you at a higher risk for atrial fibrillation, an irregular or quivering heartbeat that can lead to blood clots, stroke, and heart failure. Heavy drinking may also prematurely age your arteries over time, particularly in men, when compared to moderate drinking. So moderate drinking is, again, equal to 1 alcoholic drink daily for women, 2 alcoholic drinks daily for men, and that would be the equivalent of 12 ounces of beer, 5 ounces of wine, 1.5 ounces of 80 proof spirits, or 1 ounce of 100 proof spirits. So more than that, and we can really risk doing some damage to our heart. If you do have high blood pressure, I definitely want to encourage you to talk to your doctor about what kind of food choices are best for you, or make an appointment with me to come in and talk about a heart healthy diet specific for you. Okay. So a gentle reminder that each meal, each snack, and each day are a new opportunity to pursue and prioritize your heart health. I absolutely understand that for a lot of people, habit change is really hard. It doesn't come easy when we've been doing the same thing for a long time. So I want to encourage you to take a step back if you feel overwhelmed. Generally speaking, making healthy choices for your heart, if you stick to the parameter of the grocery store, meaning the produce, dairy, meats, and grain aisles, right, and not the middle aisles where all that packaged and processed stuff is, look for low salt or no salt added choices. Make sure you're watching out for your saturated fat found in animal products, choosing leaner animal products. That will help tremendously when it comes to your heart health. And of course, as mentioned earlier in the slides too, making sure that you are not getting an abundance of sugar in your diet as well. So I wanted to open up the floor for some questions here, and I will just ask if anybody puts it in the chat to just let me know. That way I can check the chat. Or you can unmute yourself if you'd like. Ask any questions.
Hi, I did put 3 different questions in the chat. One, I drink unsweetened almond milk. I didn't know if that is a good option, the unsweetened almond milk.
Yes, absolutely. Unsweetened almond milk is a great option. It's a plant-based milk, so you don't have any saturated fat in it, which is excellent. And because it's unsweetened, there's no added sugar. So that's a great choice. Absolutely. I'm an almond milk drinker myself.
Okay. And then my next one was, you're saying the trans fat in the bacon was 17 grams of trans fat and 2 slices of bacon. Is that what I heard?
So saturated fat, it's 9 grams of saturated fat per 1 slice of bacon. So 18 grams for 2 in saturated fat. Okay,
so I've heard in the past, and I don't know how accurate it is, that if you cook it longer, it's not as bad. So I just was wondering if the trans fat changes if you cook it longer and it's more crispy.
I think that's a great question. So we are rendering out some of that fat when we're cooking it, but ultimately, is it the best choice? Probably not. I would definitely recommend turkey bacon if you're a fan. If you've tried traditional turkey bacon, I will do a shameless plug for a brand called Columbia Meats. I buy it at Costco. That is the best turkey bacon I've found. It's nice and thick cut like a regular slice of bacon, half the fat. I believe it's even less than half the saturated fat as a regular serving of pork bacon. So something to look into.
Okay, Columbia, you said?
Columbia Meats. Yep.
Columbia Meats. All right. And then I had one other question. So I saw that the number of drinks, and I've heard this all along, for men is higher than it is for women. And not that I'm, want to be better and drink more than the man, but I find it strange because you hear that men die usually younger than the women or die off before the women. So why are they allowing more drinks for men when they seem to be the ones that die off first?
I think that's a great question too. And I will look into that a bit further for you, but my first inkling is because by and large, men are bigger than women, bigger bodied, they weigh more muscle mass, easier to metabolize alcohol in the same amount of time.
Okay. Well, those were my 3 questions.
Who else has some questions? Those are great, Karen. Thank you. While you are thinking up your questions, I'm going to continue and discuss what's coming next. So continuing the series, next week we have part 3, which is the daily habits to improve heart health. I'm super excited to wrap up our series with that next week at Wednesday at noon. And then starting July 18th, we're going to have a blood pressure challenge. So the blood pressure challenge is going to be Protect Your Heart Blood Pressure Challenge. This is for people who are looking to lower their blood pressure or maintain their blood pressure, learn and track healthy heart habits. If any of those describe you, I want to encourage you to sign up for the 6-week challenge to learn about blood pressure management, learn how to track your blood pressure. You'll receive weekly attainable steps and quick tips related to either reducing or maintaining a lower blood pressure. You'll be able to apply all the knowledge that you learned right here in our class together, and you'll be able to complete activities and earn points. So that's going to be a 6-week challenge. It'll start on Monday, July 18th. It'll run through Sunday, August 28th. Registration for the challenge will open next week on Wednesday, June 28th on Challenge Runner. So you should be able to go to the county's A to Z guide. If you go to our intranet and go to the A to Z guide, you should be able to put in probably P for Protect Your Heart or B for Blood Pressure Challenge and sign up after next Wednesday, June 28th. So super, super excited about that. And again, if you do have high blood pressure, have concerns about your nutrition, are unsure if you're getting too much sodium or maybe not enough omegas, if you have questions about saturated fat or want some good recommendations like I gave to Karen today regarding making simple swaps to still enjoy the foods that you like, I want to encourage you to reach out for health coaching. It's completely free. It doesn't have to be forever and ever on as far as the number of sessions. Sessions are 30 minutes. You can come for 1, you can come for 100. It's all good with me. If you do just have some questions about simple swaps or healthy diet or any recommendations, we can do that as a one-off session even, and you don't have to commit to coming back. If you do participate in health coaching, 2 sessions or more, as long as you're demonstrating that you're progressing towards a very simple goal that we'll set together, then that can earn you up to 12,500 points for your wellness incentives if you've elected points, or it can earn you up to $50 on your paycheck, which is awesome. So feel free to take advantage of that. You can reach out to me at the email there, shannon.parks@evernorth.com. You can also reach me at my desk. The number is provided there for you, or I will hang out for a couple of minutes after our presentation today if you wanted to chat directly. But other than that, here are the resources for the webinar today. I am so glad to have been able to spend this time with you all and hang out with you all again. And I just look forward to next week and being back with all of you guys right here for week 3.
Thank you, Shannon.
You're welcome.
So are you going to email the presentation from today?
I can certainly email you a copy of the PowerPoint presentation. Deborah, do you want to just drop your email in the chat